T-minus 5, 4,
3.
Are you recording?
We were recording all that?
Yes.
Outtakes.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to another Meet the Expert. Today in the Indianapolis VMWorld, I also have the pleasure of having Chris Colotti with me. Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself.
How you doing, Ariel? Chris Colotti, Principal Technologist with Cohesity, previously with Tintri, previously with VMware. So, yep, been around for a while.
You have been around for a while.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing you when I started in the community. But one of the things that we want to do today is get to know you. So let's start what I ask everybody, and this is my icebreaker.
You're gonna get personal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna go deep down into the Facebook comments. No, my icebreaker is always, how did you know that you wanted to do IT? Like, what drove you into IT?
Oh, that's actually a really fun story. I was driven into IT because my dad fired me.
What were you working for your dad?
I was working for a family business. My dad had I'm going to date myself, but it was actually, it was called the car phone store. We didn't have, the iPhones we have now. And I worked for him doing installations, doing car alarms, stereo installs, stuff like that. And the business wasn't doing great. So he had myself and a couple other employees, and I got the axe. So interestingly enough,
Let you go into the world. You'll be better off.
It was weird. It caused a lot of tension, actually. It was one of those weird times in my life that you just don't have that dynamic for when you do in a family business. But so I ended up getting a job working at a company called PC Connection years ago. They were mostly a catalog company before CDW and those guys got bigger. And it was an overnight.
But you were very comfortable dealing with, okay, connect the voltage here, put this.
No,
thing
I was
there.
taking orders.
Oh, you weren't installing those
I was
radios.
answering phones, selling those ugly looking iMacs. You remember the ones that like the green and
I
the blue?
don't remember.
Oh, yeah, right. Wow, I really am getting.
Well,
old.
I do know the famous ones when they were like all blue and.
Yeah, the ones that looked like a turtle shell.
Yeah.
So they were like, so they were selling a ton of those at Christmas. So it was an overnight shift, and that was kind of how I got started in IT. I went to school for architectural engineering, so I didn't even go to school for IT.
Really?
Yep.
Well, you're not a principal architect, so.
Yeah, I actually have the degree on the wall that says I'm an architect. But no, I went to school for architecture for a long time. Switched to architectural engineering, looked at civil engineering, ran out of money, drank too much. So it is what it is. So yeah.
So what was the? Okay, so this is a lot of information in a little bit of time.
Asked.
Yeah, but I want you to unpack it a little bit, because also I look for people to give me like their career learnings, what they found out that worked for them, right? So you went back to school. Tell me a little bit about, it seems like I heard it like you were working and trying to study at the same time.
Yeah.
So
So when I was at PC Connection, so I started there taking phone orders, and if you fast forward through my career there, it was about an 8-year career, and I went into outside sales. I went actually inside sales, outside sales. I worked for an executive VP on a special project at one point, and he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, I want to go back to school. And I went back to school, night school for management and information systems. And they said, well, what do you want to do after that? And I said, well, I'd really like to work in the data center. Another interesting part of my career was there was no job openings. He just walked down there and said, put him in the data center. And I was like, and at the time
You had a sponsor.
Yeah, I had a sponsor, and I was messing with, and he's been my mentor for years. I still talk to him. He's actually a very successful entrepreneur. But we were experimenting with VMware. We were experimenting with ESX 2.5 at the time for a big project, and I had built a really small home lab and was learning it, like most people that you've interviewed, right? We just kind of go off and learn on our own. And I introduced it to the director of IT, who interestingly enough was an IBM mainframe guy. So the minute I kind of explained to him what VMware did, he just looked at me and said, so it's an LPAR. And I went, yeah, on an Intel box. So he's like, yeah, buy it. Like, it was a really easy sell because he understood the concept. That conceptually, he didn't have to struggle with it. Yeah. So I got put in charge of that project, and by the time I left there, I was kind of the lead architect on all the ESX 2.5 stuff. So that's how it was a lot of like everybody else, self-learning, motivated. You kind of have to make your own path.
Mm-hmm. So when I met you, you were already leading the VCDX program in VMware. That's a huge leap from.
So that was after the vCloud team, because I went from the vCloud. That was PSO, then vCloud, then VCDX. Yeah.
So I want to ask, did that kind of job role get you into VMware, or were there other things before you got into VMware?
No, I left the customer space, went to a partner for a year that was acquired by Sirius Computer Solutions, which is what it is now. And then I actually went directly to VMware and PSO. So I was one of the first 3 PSO delivery guys in the Northeast at the time, back in 2007.
Where were you born?
Where was I born? I was born in Arlington, Massachusetts. We were there for about a day, and then apparently it was a stopover. I grew up in southern New Hampshire most of my life. I moved there when I was 7, and then 5 years ago we moved down to Tennessee. So yeah, I'm a New England Pats fan. Yes, so yeah, same as you. But I grew up through it. I had to deal with all the highs and the lows. So.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. All right. So VMware PSO, only 3 people in the Northeast. That must have been crazy.
Yeah, I think it was still on just under 1,000 people at the time. Maybe it was just over. That was the year.
What are we, like 25,000 now? It's crazy.
Yeah, that was the year that I think that October was one of the biggest hiring years. Like the start training was huge. Met Chris Boyd, who's still back at VMware. We're still best friends, and it went from there. So it was like PSO for 3 years. I did some residency stuff through PSO, and then vCloud Director was launched. So we had a vCloud team that was doing knowledge transfer and kind of introducing that when Lab Manager was going away. You remember that whole time when Lab Manager disappeared and vCloud Director took over for it? What's that?
Jonathan Frappier reminds me all the time.
Yeah, I know. So that's where I lost most of my hair. But yeah, and then it went from there, and I did different roles within VMware over the almost 10 years I was there. It was always just a shift, like a lateral move back and forth to different things. And ultimately, when you came in, I was actually working on the VCDX program after.
Very cool. And you did that at least like 3 years or so.
That was about 18 months, and then I went back over to the architecture team that got absorbed into customer success. So, and then ultimately, I kind of decided it was maybe time to move on to something else.
So that was a big move, right? Going from VMware to Tintri.
Yeah.
Tintri didn't have a great time. I think they're still around though.
Yeah. They're actually. I talked to Steve Phillips. I still am a fan of the product. We run it in our lab. Actually, it runs our VDI desktops for all the view sessions we use for the Cohesity labs. Cool. For the trade shows. So all the trade shows.
So what things did you learn about yourself and weighing that move? About okay, so VMware's not working out for me. Who am I going to go to, right? So tell me about your the thought process that moved you to Tintri, and probably also how I'm also interested in hearing how you moved to Cohesity and your thought process, because obviously you're a very talented individual that has gone through a lot of thoughts, and I know from watching your VCDX workshops that you're a very driven and motivated individual. So we'll talk about a little bit more about data, but I'm right now trying to rescue your thought process when you move companies.
The VMware thought process was leaving VMware was a tough decision. It was really about where I was, where I needed to go, and had I made the moves that I wanted to. And at the time there was some friction in a couple of areas with a manager at the time, so it was just the right time, right? You kind of figure out like this is just not working, and you gotta move on. And Chris Boyd was actually at Tintri at the time, and a bunch of other guys were there that I knew. And
that made it easy.
It made it easy. Yeah, it really comes down to who you know, right? Sometimes it's just who's on your LinkedIn, who are you friends with, who are you connected to, and leaving Tintri was more when the bankruptcy was filed. Everybody got let go on a Monday morning, and that was a whole different thought process. That was the first time in my career that I've ever been let go, laid off, abruptly, and woke up to an email that basically said, "You're all fired." We all knew it was coming, but at the same time, you had some irons in the fire, and you were having some side conversations. But a lot of us there, we still believed in the technology. I wouldn't have bought it and put it in my lab if I didn't. But it's that whole process is, frankly, and I'll just be honest, it scares the shit out of you. Anybody who's ever lost their job. Julie's lost her job twice in her career, 3 times in her career. She used to work in technology when it was, she worked for a company called Apollo Computer that was acquired by HP, which interestingly now they have the Apollo line of servers, which made her giggle. But everybody processes it differently. We went into a financial lockdown. Like that second time, it was more about what do we have to do to just not have to worry about things, because we all go through our careers and we you progress, right? And you build a lifestyle, and next thing you know, well, you lose your job and you wonder how you're going to pay for everything. So we went into very much a shut it all down, minimalistic, buy the food that needs to go on the table, start paying things off. That was right after we had moved. So we had a huge nugget.
So we haven't talked about this at all.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the move from New Hampshire, but that was a huge expense, to do that. It was massive. And we took on more debt. So then you lose your job and you really start to, I didn't sleep. There was a lot of nights I didn't sleep.
Yep. And, okay, so first of all, let's talk about the move to New Hampshire, particularly the very famous RV, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, so we lived in a motorhome for 8 months. We were building our house. We decided to move. The short story was it was when they still had Partner Exchange in Las Vegas, and I was at Partner Exchange, and Julie was home in New Hampshire and got 27 inches of snow in 24 hours. Literally a 24-hour storm in October. She was stuck in the house, trapped in the house for 3 days. She couldn't move the snow. We had a tractor, snowblower, everything, but it was just too much. I was a little bit naive. I said, why don't you just go out and move the snow? And she said, do you realize my inseam is only 22 inches and there's 24 inches of snow? And I had to do the math on that. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you can't really walk through that. So we just decided, and 20 or 40 plus years of New Hampshire winters, we decided to move, and we sold the house. We bought our first RV, lived in it in a campground for 8 months, worked out of it. We rented a little office space for her to work out of, so we weren't on top of each other. And I would not recommend it to most people, because by the time 7.5 months came around, it was starting to get stressful. But yeah, then we moved into the new house, and all things worked out. So.
Yep. Okay, so that's a big thing. We haven't touched also on, and I'm sorry to keep bringing things that you're not volunteering, but you're a big fitness guy. I remember that you were part of, I want to say, Beachbody.
Yeah, for a long time, yeah.
And are you still active in that?
Not active as much. I mean, I was joking with Tim Davis last night. It was like, no, I got to work out tomorrow morning. I still do. I still do it.
I remember pictures of the RV, like you said.
Oh, I was working out. Yeah, I worked out outside. We carry dumbbells when we go camping and stuff. But for me, that was a lifestyle change. I weighed, I'm actually back up now, but at the time I was about 225, and wasn't health issues. And this was now 10 years ago. My health was not as great. I had a lot of issues just breathing and walking and everything else. So I lost a ton of weight.
Was it around the time you were working for PSO?
Yeah, because what you do is you eat, you drink, you sleep in a hotel, and and then you eat and drink some more. So, but I decided I needed a change, right? Because it just wasn't working out for me. So I ended up the lowest I ever got down to was about 158, and that was really tough to maintain. So now I started some new stuff, lifting again. So IT Muscle, Mike Wilson and I always talk all the time. We're always comparing notes. We always miss each other. We keep trying to get a workout in together. But yeah, it's just a part of my life. I'm 45, going on 46 years old, and I'm probably in better shape now than I was then. So it's something you got to commit to it, and it sucks every day.
So very important. You've mentioned a lot of things, and they all come back to work-life balance.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about that, because I know you have a session at VMWorld.
We do.
I think about that. So I think it's a good segue into it.
Yeah, no, so it's, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but yeah, the session is actually really interesting. So Cohesity has 2 sponsor sessions, and what we convinced management is that, can we use one of the sponsor sessions to really talk about this? So there's been a lot of guys, myself included, I think you've posted something just around how we've all started to burn out with travel and just stress and everything else. And
it's not only us, but our families as well.
Yeah, I get it from my wife. I don't know about you, but and we actually got approval, and Mo had approved it, to do a work-life balance session, which is going to be set up as a panel session. So it'll be myself, Rollinson, Rivera, Teresa Miller, and John Hildebrand, and Mike Letchin is going to moderate it. We're going to go through some results of a survey we put up. That's out there right now. We've actually got over 200 responses so far on the survey, and a lot of comments. Like, we have no idea how to weed through all the comments and try to pick out some quotes and stuff, because we want to present some of the results. I really think the session is going to be amazingly different, because it's not technical, right? And we've even had Mike Wilson, actually, not to mention him again, but we're gonna have a couple other guys like come up just to the front of the stage, as we do it to get outside input. We don't want it to just be the 4 people on the panel, although you know how VMworld is. You have to have your panelists and the people who are part of the session. But we're just gonna bring up some extra mics and hopefully have some injection. Josh Atwell had some stuff he wanted to talk about. So I'll talk about some of my experiences like everyone else. I don't want to give that away.
No, but it's for me the main thing with all the names you said, they're very well known names in the community.
Absolutely.
And have been for years.
Yeah.
So it teaches us the progression, right? Because we see a lot of people, new people coming into VMUG, new people presenting at VMUGs, new people taking jobs at vendors, and we see another stage here, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I want to highlight.
Yeah, and I actually talk to John about it all the time, that sometimes, and I have a blog post that was probably 5 years old now that talked about how at one point in my career at VMware, somebody told me I always say no to stuff. And I said, no, I don't always say no. I take on the things that I believe I can balance with everything else that's going on, whether it's home life or other stuff within the organization. Because if everybody says yes to everything, my opinion really is you don't get 100% of the work done, you get it 80% done, and you lose some of the quality, right? So if everybody's trying to say yes to everything, it's really hard. The hardest thing to do is to say, strategically say no. I'm the guy who just says no. Because I don't care sometimes. It's just a matter of that's not going to work for me, right? I mean, we had a conversation the other day where light boards came up, and to give you an idea how we're kind of traveling right now, John and I are in San Jose for a week. We fly from there to Miami, and then there's a week off, and then there's VMworld, right? So we're literally two weeks back to back plus another week. They wanted to do light boards the Friday before VMworld, and I'm like, I'm not flying again. There's just no way. I can't do 4 weeks.
Yeah, need a little time.
Yeah, and sometimes you just gotta say no.
Put your boundaries. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned Julie before. I wanted to highlight her. She is very well known in the vExpert community because she's the one that creates our amazing shirts and polos.
Yeah.
So maybe just a little shout out to Julie's work.
Yeah, so she started her business 10 years ago now. So yeah, the community's been awesome. Tim Davis and a couple other people always, who kind of get the pop-up shop going for the vExpert stuff. So she's starting to do more stuff with companies for trade shows. She does a lot for the VMUG. Actually, the banner outside coming in, the roll-up banner, she did that a couple years ago. So yeah, I mean, she's done an incredible job.
What's the name of the company?
STK Promotions.
STK Promotions, and we use it mostly for shirts, but it's basically anything that's used in conferences.
Pretty much any swag. The only thing she won't do is sell junk. Her big thing is she always wants to sell stuff that people will actually use. So there's some stuff that
No throwaways.
No throwaways, yeah. So we've actually got some, there's something I do want to mention. I don't know when this is going to air, but we're waiting for a form. I was telling Tim last night, there's a vExpert form that Cohesity's putting up for some free t-shirt sign up and stuff like that. Cool. So we are doing some t-shirt swag. We're trying to get the web form up, and there's going to be a really interesting opportunity if you opt in for it to go into a drawing for a very special limited engagement breakfast at VMworld. So cool. I won't give that away, but if you do sign up for it,
yeah.
It's a teaser, but if you do sign up for it, yeah, you got to commit to it. It'll be 7 a.m., but the special guest will be worth talking to. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, I really thank you for your time. This is great for me. I've looked up for you since I came into the community, and still, one of the best things you ever did was putting the Patriots logo on the Tinter thing. I still have that on the laptop. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.